Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana. We're here today with special guest, Ellen Dee Davidson, who's here to share with us her new books, The Miracle Forest, A True Story, Wind, and Sacred Forest Bathing, The Healing Power of Ancient Trees and Wild Places. So can spending time with ancient trees truly awaken creativity, intuition, and even deep healing? Well, today's guest is here to share with us just that. After graduating from UC Santa Cruz, Ellen Dee Davidson spent years teaching elementary school, creative writing, and piano while raising her two daughters, Jessica and Michelle. She's the author of 6 published books and several magazine articles, including one on preserving ancient trees. Her works include The Miracle Forest, A True Story, which is a 2025 Nautilus Silver Award winner, Wind, a 2023 Nautilus Gold Award winner, and Sacred Forest Bathing, The Healing Power of Ancient Trees and Wild Places. Ellen lives among the redwoods in Humboldt County, where nature continues to inspire her writing and way of life. So welcome to the show, Ellen Dee Davidson.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
My goodness, what an honor it is to have you here. And congratulations on your Silver Nautilus Award for your book, The Miracle Forest. I mean, what a huge deal that is.
Thank you. It did feel good.
Well, you're a old pro at winning awards for your books, and we've got such great books to talk about today. But let's start with The Miracle Forest. Like, what even inspired you to write that book?
I was reading an adult book and I can't even remember the title. And there was this paragraph in the book about a community in Colombia that had a sustainable community that had miraculously managed to restore rainforests that hadn't been seen in the area for thousands of years. Biologists think 30,000 years. And this thought ran through my head, this is supposed to be a children's book. And that began my odyssey of trying to write the book and get the permission and everything that went into it.
So, why do you think this true story gives so much hope?
It is so hopeful because it shows how, when we humans do our best to work with nature, that the earth can respond with miracles beyond our wildest imaginations, as it did in this case. And how it did that was the people of Gaviotas, Colombia, and you can look it up on their website. They had a sustainable community, but they could not get anything to grow in the barren grassland savannas of eastern Colombia. And they tried everything. And then finally, they tried tropical Caribbean pines. Not only did the pines support the community with resin, which could be used in all kinds of products from paper to baseball bat gripping agents and violin bows, but shaded in the understory of these trees that also made the soil less acidic. Rainforests not seen in the area for thousands of years, biologists think 30,000 years, spontaneously regenerated and brought back over 260 species of flora and fauna. And they've now planted 8 million tropical Caribbean pines and are continuing to do so, restoring rainforests as they go.
What a phenomenal story. And how did you even get permission to write the story about this community in Colombia?
That was tricky. There was an adult book by Alan Wiseman, A Village to Reinvent the World, I think is the title. And I read that book and tried to get permission to write a children's book based from the information in that book. And Alan said no. And so then I thought, well, we have to get the permission from Paulo Lugari, the founder of the community. But it was really difficult to travel there. Colombia is right next door to Venezuela, and he at that time had no website, no way to contact him. He only speaks Spanish and not English, and my Spanish is too limited. So I was kind of stumped for a while. And then a rare opportunity to go down there happened. And I couldn't go at the time, but my husband gallantly volunteered and he went and toured Gaviotis and brought my translated manuscript down, and Pella loved it. And so we got his permission, and he came back, and I'd already published a couple children's books, a few, and I felt like Jason of the Argonauts. I'm back with the Golden Fleece. I have the story for our times. That's how I felt. But that isn't how my publishers felt at the time. This was a while back. Climate change wasn't a big issue, and the understanding of why we need to restore forests, and especially how difficult it is because of the loss of topsoil to regenerate rainforest wasn't common knowledge. And so it got rejected for a long time, and I put it away thinking, oh, well, I'm just not going to do this. And then Paolo wanted the book. And I thought he was only being gracious and letting me tell his amazing story for kids. But that wasn't how he felt. He really loves it. And so, with that encouragement, I decided I'd do whatever it takes. And I hired my friend to illustrate the story. And we eventually did find a small publisher, 12 Willows Press, and the book's here.
Well, congratulations. I can see easily how this was a Nautilus Book Award winner. It has me thinking, I mean, what type of challenges did you face in adapting such complex environmental and social issues in a story for children?
Yeah, I really simplified the story down to the bare bones. And I focused mostly on the environmental aspect of the story while trying not to leave anything out. I mean, they worked with the local indigenous native people, the Wahibo. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And they took in kids who were on the streets and didn't have parents and sent them through school. So there's so many aspects of this story, and I didn't totally leave them out, but I kept a tight focus on the environmental aspects.
What impact do you hope this book will have on bilingual readers?
I hope they find it. I right now Palos put the books in schools in Colombia, which really makes me happy, and I'm hoping more uh, kids. I live in California, uh, in the whole Southwest, where we have so many Spanish speakers, will get copies in their hands. It's just so uplifting and great role model.
How does the Miracle Forest encourage young readers to believe they can make a difference in the world?
Well, Paolo is just one man. I mean, he had a dream. As a young boy, Paolo read a lot of utopias, including Thomas More's book. I think it's called Utopia. And he dreamed of communities of people living together sustainably in harmony with each other and the earth in peace. And when he grew up, he didn't forget his dream. He tried to create it. And he picked a hard place to do it on purpose, because at that time he thought with the growing world population that we would need to learn to live sustainably in the less hospitable places. And so he's an example of how just one person can make huge differences by following their dreams. So that's what I really would like to encourage children to do is find and follow their true heart's dreams. Even if they seem small, they don't all have to be huge like Palos, but that's the place from which we can make a difference.
Well, what an inspiring story. I'd like to pivot over to your other Nautilus award winning book, a gold Nautilus award winning book, Wind. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Yeah, Wind is an eco fantasy for middle grade, 8 to 12. And it's kind of in the tradition of high fantasies like The Wizard of Oz, A Wrinkle in Time, Narnia, those books. So it's an adventure story. It focuses on two characters on a quest, and they're very different. And in order to succeed on their quest, they have to learn to collaborate and work together and get along. So there's that. And it's a vivid book that has a lot of different settings. and those settings are embedded in ecological tidbits that are fun. So
And where did the inspiration of this book come from?
I think when I was raising my children, and we had this cat named Misty and another one named Gray Kitty, and I don't know, my daughter felt like she could hear Gray Kitty saying, "Fish, fish, I want fish." And somehow this idea that the cat could talk to my daughter stuck in my mind. And then embedded in the book is some forest mythology. I have a forest goddess who is a shapeshifter. That character has come to me in dreams and sort of fascinates me that this forest goddess could become a tree, sort of like in Greek mythology, Daphne becomes a tree and then can become a woman roaming the forest. And so some of the characters have just been playing with me since I was a child.
Well, how inspiring is that? My goodness, something that stayed with you all those years and to come to life in such a profound way. Earlier, you mentioned that you think wind is an eco fantasy. I'd love for you to share why you consider it to be one.
Well, it has some basic environmental ethics about the interrelationships of everything and how intricate that is and how the health is in the diversity and of the environment. And then it has descriptions. They go through different terrains. So at one point they're in a swamp and the wetlands have a fascinating environment. And so it's not like the book bogs down with these environmental details, but they're woven throughout in the different environments. We go to a lake and meet a water god, and we are up in the mountains for a while. We're in the forest and the swamp. And in each place, I've managed to weave little tidbits. With the tree, it was really fun for me because that was right when Suzanne Simard, a scientist who wrote a book called The Mother Tree, was coming out with her cutting edge research about how trees communicate through the fungal networks at their roots. And they communicate through chemical messengers asking for what they need and offering what they have. And so I was able to embed that into the fantasy, and it was really fun.
That is a lot of fun using that science. And this book is so good at blending both the science and fantasy. How did you weave these elements together in a way that feels both magical and educational?
I think because that's where I live personally, I kind of live between those worlds. And in fact, behind my house, I moved here 32 years ago, and there's an old growth redwood tree that began visiting me in my dreams. And 32 years ago, I thought that was completely ridiculously impossible. And I'm still not sure if it's possible, but it did happen to me. I analyzed the dreams as if the tree represented a part of me. But now I wonder because we're finding out so much about the sentience of trees and other species as well. But with trees, the Heart Math Institute did a study recently of human tree interconnectivity, and they had people be loving and grateful and appreciative of red maples. And then they measured the bioelectric fields on these maples. And when people did that, the bioelectric fields expanded. Their ambient fields expanded totally. So there is all this relationship going on. And mysticism and science, or fantasy, you could say, in place of the word mysticism, is starting to come together a lot more. And so I was just on par with the culture when I was weaving that together in my book.
Well, what a fabulous story that is. And we don't want to give too much away because we don't do spoilers here. What do you hope children take away from reading Wind?
First of all, I hope they're entertained and it's really fun, like all good fantasies are, and a great escape and just can't put it down, hiding under the covers with their flashlights. I think it's a page turner, and that's what I'm hoping. And I also hope that they take away the importance of friendship and how when we work together with other people who might be quite different than we are, are more effective and we can do more than on our own. And I hope that some of this environmental information sparks curiosity and a desire to learn more about the beauty and sort of magic of this earth we live in, on, in, with.
All together.
Yeah.
Well, and I'd love to touch on your newest book, Sacred Forest Bathing. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Yes, all of my books up until this book have been for children. Not all the same age. I have fiction and nonfiction picture books and middle grade and young adult fantasy. But this book is written for adults, and it's kind of an eco-memoir that combines wilderness adventure experience. I've run into mountain lions and rutting elk and rattlesnakes and all kinds of things. There aren't rattlesnakes in the redwoods, but I was a little bit inland. It also weaves in science and uh, mythology about forest goddesses who are found around the world in every culture that has a forest.
So, for our listeners that are new to forest bathing, can you share a little bit about that practice with us?
Forest bathing is a term that was coined by the Japanese, who have been studying it now for about 30 years. And it is a combination of going into an unspoiled forest environment and practicing simple mindfulness techniques. Basically, turning off phones and all electronic devices, practicing silence, not talking, tuning in by paying attention to all the senses, what you smell, what you see, what you hear. And they have found in these studies that even a couple days spent in a forest, mindfully in a forest, benefits us for the next 30 days, lowering blood pressure, stress hormones, boosting our immune systems, wound healing, and helping kids with ADHD. There's just a huge list of benefits. When I first practiced forest bathing, I had never heard of it. I didn't know that's what I was doing. What happened is I'd had those dreams, and then I had a very mystical experience where I felt like a tree had told me to come back. And I started coming back, and I've been coming back now for 17 years. And I hike 3 or 4 miles to get into these various trees and then sit for a couple hours, and totally healed me. I had insomnia, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, couldn't turn my neck, chemical sensitivities, caught every cold that came down the pike. And now I'm 71 and I'm totally healthy and really happy. And it's
What
the forest that did it.
what a profound practice. I love how in your book you describe forest bathing as a path to healing and expanded consciousness. Did part of this journey, your personal journey with the redwoods, really kind of shape that?
Absolutely. First I had the tree coming to me in my dreams. And then in my desperate need to get well from these physical problems I was having, I had tried everything. And one thing I tried was meditating. And so I was in this meditation group, and the teacher suggested we follow the juice. And what he meant by that was that we follow our heart's desire, the thing that really made us feel alive and vibrant and want to wake up in the morning. So on free days, when I didn't have anything I had to do, I started playing a game with myself. I would wake up in the morning and think, what do I want to do? And it kept being go to the forest. And so I just did. And I loved the peace and the quiet and how soothed my nervous system felt. But I had no idea that I was going to receive healing. And gradually I would notice, oh, I slept really well last night. Oh, I can turn my neck. Oh, I didn't catch that cold my husband had or my kids had. And then the studies became more public about the benefits, and I realized that I had unwittingly experienced the healing power of forest bathing.
Your book so well, it's just so eloquent in the way that it blends science and myth and your personal journey. How do you see these threads supporting one another in our relationship with nature?
Well, first of all, I could backtrack a little bit and say it is a relationship with nature, and every one of us on the planet have ancestors that were intimate and deeply involved and evolved with certain places in nature. And I think it's a basic human need to feel connected to the earth. And when we do, we feel belonging to the community of life. And right now, with how fascinated we all are with computers and AI and spending a lot of time online, that's a very disembodied. It's fascinating, it's intellectual, it's mental, there's all the things to be said for it. But the balance to that is for us to unplug and go spend some time in nature. And for people that don't have a lot of access to nature, that can be pets, that can be houseplants, that can be a window box, a garden outside, a local park, a beach, any kind of natural environment. It's good to go back to the same ones over and over again because it is a relationship. And just like with people, we might hit it off with someone and think they're fantastic and be excited we met them. But the relationship needs time and attention to deepen, and that's true with nature too.
I love that. How does your background in mindfulness and nature therapy influence the techniques that you offer readers in your book?
I shared some, the ones that felt appropriate for whatever chapter I was writing, and I'm sure there are others that people could explore with. It's just as personal as our own relationships with friends and family and loved ones. Each person will have their unique relationship with the living earth, and it's such a blessing to get to explore that. So I shared some that work for me, and that's a doorway in. And then it's also an invitation for people to take it further and find out where their dance with nature is going to go.
For our readers and listeners that are new to sacred forest bathing, what tip would you like to give them?
The biggest tip is to be quiet, unplug, pay attention, listen, notice. Let the beauty of the natural environment enchant and lure you into awe and wonder and joy. A lot of us felt that as children when we'd see a butterfly or something cool, we'd get all excited. And that wonder, which is also great for our health, that wonder is something we can all expand into when we spend time listening deeply in nature.
Well, Ellen, you're such just an inspiration. Where can our listeners connect with you and learn about your books?
I have a website, and it's Ellen D Davidson Davidson.com. It's all lowercase and pretty easy to find.
Well, Ellen, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thanks, Marianne. It was lovely.
Well, thank you, Ellen. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your Nautilus award-winning books, The Miracle Forest, A True Story, and Wind, and your new book, Sacred Forest Bathing, The Healing Power of Ancient Trees and Wild Places. All books are available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers, and if you don't see it on the shelf, just ask for them to order it. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary. A recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.